Jnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare. Welcome everybody. Welcome back everybody. How's everybody feeling tonight? Starting to get a little warm here, isn't it? Yeah, a little sweaty. People coming out of the Kirtan especially. But this is a wonderful time to sit here in the evening and have some nice discussions. Every evening we do our Q&A session. And that's what we're here for. It all begins with a question. And I turn to you, to all of you, to see if anyone has a question they'd like to begin the night with. I will wait here patiently, knowing that one of you will certainly raise your hand in just a moment and begin our evening's proceedings. Sometimes it happens like this. It's a little slow. And then a question starts to bubble up in someone's heart, rises up to someone's mind, and they raise their hand. Anyone? Small question, silly question, anything to get it started. People in the back, here we go.
How can you speak to people being able to maintain their individuality and being authentic to themselves, but at the same time following a spiritual process that maybe appear to be channeling people in a certain direction that may look sort of like a narrow path? My question is probably not very clear, but just that how do people get that balance between being authentic and being loyal to a tradition? And then, is that clear? Clear.
Yeah,
Get you started on
it's a clear question. Just a question. Will my answer be clear? But I'll repeat it. So certainly, these spiritual paths are meant to reveal the self and some authentic self, not a artificial conception of the self. The idea is really to get past that, right? We're raised and we're conditioned with different ideas of who I am, and the path of Vedanta is really about examining that idea and seeing that I'm embracing certain. We have this thing going on with this again. Did you know how to fix that last night? Yeah. Okay. We're just getting a little high-pitched thing here. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but we'll fix it in a moment. Here we go. It just rings just a little more bass or something. Haribo. I think that's better, huh? Yeah? Better? I think so. Okay. Did you turn down the volume or did you change the tone? Okay, the tone. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So these paths are meant to get us past these artificial ideas of who we are that don't satisfy, because we attach our idea of ourself to something temporary, something that changes, and eventually something that falls apart. Then we have to find a new identity. Imagine if we had the ability to zoom out and look at ourselves over the course of many lifetimes. Wouldn't you like to be able to do that? Might be a little scary. But what would it reveal? What I believe what it would reveal is we'd say, oh, look, I was born in this particular body. I identified as a man. I identified as a person from a certain country. And then I left that body and I entered a new one. And as soon as I got in that new one, I forgot all about that other identity. It didn't mean it. It was everything to me. And then suddenly it was nothing to me. And then I adopted a new identity. Now I'm a woman and I'm from another place. And I was fully absorbed and fully convinced that that is who I am. And then I was separated from that identity too. Time, the force of time, separated me from that identity. And then I took on another identity. And again, I was 100% convinced that this is me. Right? This is who I am. Even then, I took birth in a body in another species. Right? Then I was in an animal's body. And I was very convinced that I'm this animal. And again, we go like this again and again. If only we could see it clearly, it would become so clear to us. Oh, what am I doing here? I'm not any of these bodies. My identity is not tied to any of these things. My identity is something beyond that. My identity is something that's steady, that's passing through all these temporary circumstances. So uncovering that steady thing is what this is all about. But in order to do that, we might have to do some practices. And it's kind of, certainly in the beginning, it can be kind of like, okay, everybody get in line and follow the orders, right? Wake up at this time, do a certain type of meditation, read certain books. Probably better not to read other books. Begin to regulate your senses in a certain way. And having a group of people that are doing that and have laid out that path and have followed that path can be very beneficial. That people have already taken these steps and they've realized how to take these steps and they can help us take these steps. That's great. And then eventually, as some deeper understanding starts to arise, then people need to be given a little bit of room, I think. I think it's probably like that in anything. It's like if you're learning music, you probably, first of all, you're being taught the scales. And you're just being drilled, just keep playing this. And you're like, well, can I express myself? No, just keep playing this, until you get the skills down, until you really understand. And then you'll be able to express more of your own individuality through what you want to play. So I think with spiritual practices like that too, we practice there's certain regulations in our life and certain practices that we do. And eventually you begin to let go of a lot of your false conceptions and a lot of your attachments. And then you may begin to express yourself in more individual ways. But whenever there's like a bit of an institution around it, navigating those tensions is always sensitive, But that's the world we live in. It's messy. It's not always easy. But the key is really to search out one or two people, maybe three, maybe four if you're lucky, people that are really advanced in this, that really understand it, that practice it well, that understand you, that have a genuine affection for you. If you have even one person, what to speak of a few people, then they'll help you navigate your way through it. Otherwise, it would be a shame if, because of someone's lack of full maturity, someone that we're associating with and they're not entirely mature in their approach, that we lose our own enthusiasm because of that. Because this tradition and this path is so much more than what any one or two or three people or any even institution means. It's something that, how can I lose, it would be a shame if I lost my enthusiasm to practice something that's been around forever, that has changed the lives of countless living beings, because one or two that I'm in contact with aren't living it as ideally as I would hope that they might live it, Is that all right? Okay, thank you. Okay, that was a good question. You see, there's a question there. Now we need another one. Anyone have a question? In the back, someone? No? Mm-hmm. Are you all just sitting here because you wanted to sit down? Tell the truth. We just need one question. Anybody in line have a question? We'll take questions from people waiting in line. When is the food going to be served? Is that your only question? Okay. I just need one. We got another one. Yes, saving us tonight.
Can you speak to something of how we're in holy places? They're places of the rishis, places of the sages. Today I went to Dev-Prayag. You know, you can feel it's a rarefied place, and it's been a place that great personalities have performed spiritual practices. Can you speak something to how we can be more receptive to the holy places and the holy personalities that have been here, and how we can be influenced by that in a positive way and receptive to that?
Is the volume high enough? Can everybody hear well? Yes? Let me. Okay, I need to know in the back. Thank you. So how do we come? We've come. Many of us have come long distances to visit these holy places in India. I was in a holy place today too. I was in Haridwar. In a one friend took me to this quiet place last year, and we had to go try to find it again. It was a little bit challenging, but we found it. And it was a place where I suppose there's some pilgrims there, and a lot of sadhus, mostly sadhus. It's like a whole sadhu colony over there. And we sat down under a tree, some of us, small group of us, and we read Bhagavad Gita. And I think we all kind of realized, kind of at the same time, that a place like Haridwar, we read that 5,000 years ago, Vidur, the sage Vidur, met the sage Maitreya right there, maybe right on that very spot for all we know. That there's a whole colony of sadhus there right now, but there's always been a whole colony of sadhus there, right? We don't know how far back. And so to read the Bhagavad Gita there felt like we were part of a tradition that stretches way, way back and will continue to stretch way, way forward. There's certain contact points, certain access points where the spiritual world meets the material world. And you can hear about them and visit them and benefit from them. Sometimes we might feel that benefit in some special way. There's something called shadow attachment. Have you heard this term before? Shadow attachment. It means something like a very advanced bhakti yogi may feel. We may feel a little something like that, even though we're not really on their level, but we may be blessed in some way to feel a little something. And the holy places are one of the 5 big ways that people feel that, that you visit one of these places. We were sitting there reading the Bhagavad Gita and just relishing it. And then also looking into the river and seeing ladies in their saris going into the water, old ladies, and just saying that, and we looked and we said, that picture right here, exactly what we're seeing in front of our eyes. It's a nice place because across the river is nothing but forest. It's like what do they call it? Like a reserve, like a federal government reserve kind of area. Just wildlife. And the ghat itself that we're at is simple. There's not a lot of noise there. There's not a lot of people there. So you could look at that and it looked exactly what it would look like thousands of years, centuries ago, that exact same picture. And then we turned the other direction, and it's like lots of sadhus sitting on the ghat going down, just reading their shastras or discussing with one another. We said that picture right there, you see that exact same. One of them was reading a newspaper, but then other than that, it was like the exact same thing you could see for so many centuries. And then we went in and bathed. And we chanted mantras in the water. Those mantras have been chanted by people in that same river for so many centuries. So if we're just a little thoughtful about it, we can appreciate that I'm not living in the material world. I'm existing in eternality right now. I'm existing on another plane. It's difficult. There's a lot of talk about living in the moment and so on. This is something like that. It's a little challenging. Can I forget the past? At least for a short amount of time. Can I forget the past and all of my regrets or resentments or reminiscing of the past? Can I set that aside can I also set aside the future? Can I set aside the fears or anticipations of things in the future? And can I live in the moment? And for one who's not just living in the moment, but approaching it in one of these holy places with the intention of connecting to God, it's actually, can I live in eternity? Can I live in my eternal identity for a moment? Right? Just vibrate on that level. When people do you do like a daily seva, like deity seva? Yeah. And do you do like this Bhuta Shuddhi? You familiar? Right? So you do a little, before people, how many of you have like a little, maybe Bala Gopal at home that you worship, or little deity at home? Raise your hand if you do. Ladies, Indian ladies, yes? You worship at home? A little Bala Gopal? No? Huh? Your brother? Mother? Your mother, yeah. So sometimes beforehand you sit down, right, like this. You bathed, you put on clean clothes, you lay down a nice mat, you sit down, maybe a little pranayama, and you settle your mind, right? And then you chant maybe some mantras. And through chanting these mantras, you try to let go of the past and the present and live in your eternal identity, right? At least for that 20 minutes or so that you're doing that seva, right? Are you able to do that sometimes? Do you feel like I've let the past go, I've let the future go, I'm right here, right now. It's me and Krishna. Gopi Bhartar Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I'm not any of these temporary identities. I am an eternal servant, loving servant, connected in a loving relationship with God. I can be there right now. Then when I've done this seva, I'll put on my temporary role again. I might be a mother or a father or have different roles in society. I have to do that. But right now I want to live in this space. So when one comes a long distance to go to visit one of these holy places, then one should try to enter into that space. You know, sometimes the geography of the space is actually designed to do it. Like, have you been to Tirupati before? Who's been to Tirupati? Anyone? Tirupati. Balaji. No one. Oh my goodness. Okay, we all have to go together. You had to go there, you have to climb the hill, right? Over 3,500 steps. Okay? Good climb, yes? Takes a long time. You walk 3,500 steps before you get to see Balaji. Even then, you climb the 3,500 steps, then you can take a bath when you get to the top, right? Then you wait in line. You might have to wait in a long time, but all of that is building up your anticipation. You're leaving the rest of the world behind. You're stepping into another world. I'm stepping into another world. You have to think like that. You have to slow it down. There should be no mundane talk. You know, if you're with a group of people, you have to all make an agreement. All right? You went to Deva Prayag today. How many of you have been to Deva Prayag? 1, 2. Come on, people. At least you're in Rishikesh. That's good. Good start. When you go to one of these holy places, then you're with a group of people. You make some agreements. Can anyone suggest what some of those agreements may be? I'll share with you one. We're not going to talk any mundane talk when we're here. We have a very special opportunity. We're not going to live in the same consciousness here that we've existed in the other world. The whole point is to experience a change in our awareness, to feel something different. If we're going to talk the same kind of talk that we do elsewhere, well, then there's no point. We won't be able to enter, right? We want to enter, not just enter physically, but enter on a spiritual level, right? Our awareness has to change. So we're not going to talk any mundane talk. We're not going to criticize people. We're going to leave that aside. We're going to try to see the good in each other, right? Like this. And we're going to enter into this world, and we're going to support each other's experience. We're not going to pull each other down. One time, I'll share a story with you. One time first time I ever went to Tirupati. How many of you don't know what Tirupati is? Raise your hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tirupati is the most visited religious place, and maybe any place in the entire world as far as I understand. It's a temple in South India, temple of Lord Vishnu. And thousands and tens of thousands of people visit it every day, maybe even hundreds of thousands every day. It's a very beautiful place. And we don't even know how many centuries this temple goes back. For so many centuries, before there were trains or cars or airplanes, many people in India would walk like hundreds or even thousands of miles to see Lord Vishnu in the temple at least one time in their life. Go to see Balaji, go to see Lord Vishnu. And so I had an opportunity to go. I was staying in Mumbai. I had a couple days free. I said, I'm going to go to Tirupati. And some of my friends in Mumbai kindly arranged for someone in Tirupati to take me up. And sometimes the lines can be very long there, like 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, you know. So they arranged, foreigners, they allow, if you have a foreign passport, they kind of move you, not to the front of the line, but they can move you up so that you have your opportunity. So this person was going to take me there and help me work that out and allow me to have my darshan. So it was a nice young man that was going to be my guide. And so he said, okay, we're ready to go. He said, get in the car and we'll drive to the top of the hill. I said, get in the car and drive to the top of the hill. I thought we were going to walk up the stairs. And he said, oh, no, you don't want to do that. I said, actually, I do want to do that. No, you don't understand. You don't want to do that. It's a long walk. I know, but that's what I want to do. No, you don't want to do it. I can see he didn't want to do it. I wanted to do it. And so I kind of just had to, I was kind of regretting that I had a guide at this point. You know, I'd rather just do it on my own. But it was arranged and it just felt like I just kind of had to accept it. So we drove a car up and then we're waiting in line. You okay? Yeah? Okay. We're talking here. Yeah. Yeah, good. Take Prasad. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Huh? Hindi nahi. Yeah. English. So, okay. Everybody with me? I need to hear from the back. I'm struggling here today, people. All right? Nobody's asking questions. People are having conversations. You with me? Yes. All right. Yes. In the line? No. That's okay. All right. So I was regretting a bit that I had this guide and I'm waiting in this line. And then he started asking me questions. Sort of questions about they were topics I didn't want to discuss. And he was saying something that was kind of politely changing the subject, and he would come back and I'd politely change the subject. And finally I just said, Prabhu, I really prefer not to talk about this right now. You know, I'm trying to enter into this, you come halfway around the world, you have this moment. I'm trying to be in the right space. Then he's like, well, don't get angry with me. I was like, oh God, what can I do? Now he's upset. So anyway, it was what it was. And I had my darshan. I was grateful for it. And then I told him, you know what? I'll walk down the hill on my own. And when I got down to the bottom of the hill and I walked into the temple where I was staying, I ran into an old friend of mine I had never seen for 9 years. And somehow by coincidence, he was there at that time. And we said, tomorrow morning, I shared with what I'd just gone through. And we both said, tomorrow morning, we wake up early and both of us walk up the hill together. And so we did. And it was so nice. We really relished each other's association, and we relished it in the way that I was saying. We supported one another going deeper into that experience that we want to experience. So when we go into the holy place, we want to do it like that. We want to do it really valuing the time and really valuing the experience. This is what's going to make us open, right? This is what's going to open up the mind, open up the heart to some transformation. It's also said that there's the advice that's given in the sacred text that you don't go to the holy place just to bathe in the river. More important is you go to meet the holy person, you know, because they're the ones that really reveal it to us. So that's also like important too, that if one can go with that kind of guide, then that can really open it up as well. So all these things are important, but it's almost like it's not just, it is the holy place, but it's practically everything that we do. Whether it's going to a holy place, whether it's doing some deity seva, whether it's cooking and making an offering, whether it's honoring prasadam, chanting japa, chanting a kirtan, in all these things, the idea is to absorb the mind in it and to really be in that devotional space. So that's something we have to practice in all around, you know. So there's something about traveling a distance to go to one of these places that we can use that as an advantage to kind of bring our mind. It's because it's not regular; it's irregular. Regular things, we're more prone to fall into a mechanical kind of mode. But when you have to endeavor, I've noticed something too. It was funny. My friend Raghunath, who I do the podcast with, and myself, we both visited two really important temples on the same day in different places. He was in Natwar in Rajasthan, seeing the deity of Srinathji, Krishna. I was in Tiruvananthapuram in South India, seeing the 18-foot long Lord Vishnu, ancient deity in a town that was called Trivandrum. Both famous, ancient, really important temples. And we started talking about our experiences, and we both experienced the same thing. And we both went through the same mental adjustment. And that was, each of us had an uncomfortable wait to see the deity. I got there, it was hot, there was really long lines, and the line wasn't moving at all. And you didn't really know when it was ever going to start. And you know, you're waiting in a packed line. It's really easy to get frustrated. And myself and the two people that I were with, we all said, all right. You know, it's natural that our determination, our devotion may be tested. And so we accept this, and we accept it with a peaceful mind. We won't allow our minds to get disturbed. We say, thank you, Krishna. The little test is here. We accept the test, and we're going to remain peaceful and eager to take your darshan. And Raghunath said he went through the exact same thing. Yeah. Now, one time I went to a holy place in Braj with a small group, and it was led by a lady who's like a really deep Vaishnava, Dambasi. She was going to show us this place. I don't even remember exactly where it was. I remember it was in Braj. And so it was a distant place, quiet place. And so there you are. You know, again, you've gotten on an airplane and you've flown a long way and maybe gotten sick and, you know, tolerated and gone through the jet lag and done so much. And now you're in the place that you envisioned yourself being when you were back on the other side of the world. And your anticipation is that it's going to be just like you dream it's going to be. Magical things are going to happen. I'm going to feel special things. And then you get there and it's not exactly as you hoped it would be. So when we got there are little children, Brijbasi kids. Brijbasi kids, look out. I mean, they can really put you to the test, right? And so they were just harassing us. We're sitting there. They're making fun of us. We can't understand what they're saying, but it's pretty clear that they were having a few laughs at our expense and being noisy and just making it really difficult for us to focus like we wanted to focus. And you could see some people starting to get a little upset. And then this woman, this very deep Vaishnavi, she said to us, don't worry at all. Don't worry at all. She gave everyone a completely different. Everyone was like, these kids, they're from here. They're supposed to know better. They're supposed to respect their elders. They're supposed to appreciate the spiritual quality of the place. I thought we'd come here and everybody's like a devotee of Krishna, and they would be appreciating our efforts, and they're just being just like terribly behaved, you know. And she said, no, don't worry at all. Don't worry at all. She said, they're just testing us. They want to see if we're really sadhus or not, or if we're just faking, right? And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, that was a whole new way to look at it for us. Maybe they weren't really, you know, whatever. Like, maybe they weren't conceiving of themselves as testing us. Maybe they were. But in any case, it was a test. It was a test of are we sadhus or not. What is a sadhu? Titikshava, karunaka, you know, tolerant, merciful, a friend of every living being. You know, are we like that? If we're not going to tap into this place and really feel anything anyway. Right? It's only if we become like that we really begin to have access to this spiritual transformation. And so when she said that, it made perfect sense. Are we sadhus or are we not? Are we just dressed up like sadhus? You know? So all these things are important when you visit a holy place. Count on being tested. Anything, any effort that you make, any sincere effort that you make for your spiritual life, here's a piece of advice. Are you ready? In the back? Okay. Any serious effort that you make in your spiritual life, count on being tested at the beginning of it. Count on it. You know, anticipate it. When it comes to you, you're going to be ready for it. Here comes the test, right? This is it right now. This is where we get tested. This is where we don't get upset. This is where we keep a cool head. This is where we say, oh, great, this is the test. You know, I knew this test was going to come. Here it is, and I'm totally ready for it. I'm ready to accept it as a Vaishnava accepts the test. I'm ready to see this as an opportunity to express my devotion. Right? It's giving me more confidence that I will be successful, because this is the hurdle that I have to cross in order to be successful. And Krishna has nicely arranged it for me in this way. I remember once I was thinking like this. I was already prepared. Would you like to hear this story? This may sound a little weird to everyone. But one of my services for a long time, when I was a brahmachari, I would sell books, Bhagavad Gitas, like this. And I would approach people, random people. Sometimes I would approach someone and show them the Bhagavad Gita, and they would respond like I was like Narada Muni just landed down. They were so grateful. My God, what are you doing here? This is so nice. You come out here and you do this wonderful thing. And sometimes people would ignore me. Sometimes people would ignore me but have a little something nasty to say. Sometimes people were downright aggressive, hostile. And this was a day where I was really determined. It was a special day, like a day where like lots of people were traveling, and I was in a train station. Big train station. Like some of these train stations in America, like cathedrals practically. They got huge ceilings. It wasn't Grand Central Station. It was in Philadelphia. But it was kind of like that. And I said, today, I know that I have the opportunity to really reach a lot of people with these books today. But I also know because of that, there's probably going to be a test. I was really focused. I want to be focused all day. But I'm anticipating that there's going to be a test. Right? I was already there. And then the first person that I walked up was a gentleman in a business suit, briefcase, just like you picture, walking quickly through the terminal. Hardly anybody there. It was early in the day. I was out early. And he's walking fast, and I approached him with a bright face and enthusiasm and reached out to give him the book. He took the book. Just sent it fly like high through the air, And in one sense, that was a very hostile, impolite, vulgar thing to do. But I knew that was my test. I said, okay, sir, thank you. And I went and I picked up the book and just continued without my mind being even slightly disturbed by it. And I felt good. I'm ready now. I'm ready, And so all the things that we do in life, can we do them? Can we be sadhus? Can we be sadhus when we go to the holy places? Can we be sadhus when we do our deity seva? Can we be sadhus when we sit down to chant? You know? Can we be sadhus when we cook? Can we all of this? You know? Expect challenges. Don't expect this world to easily facilitate. Well, or let me put it this way: don't expect this world to smoothly facilitate your spiritual path. Expect there to be bumps. See those bumps as advantages rather than disadvantages, and you'll grow. You know. And if you think like that, and if you take in all the things I said and really embrace them, and you go to these holy places, you will feel something. You know, you really will. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. Question.
Thank you. To what extent can a deep inquiry into the nature of reality be considered the essence of spiritual life? Does that make sense?
You know, I suppose that one can inquire with different motives, right? So according to the motive, that determines the depth. If I'm inquiring into spiritual life because I know that there are laws that the universe operates according to, and I know, but that I can't see with my eyes, but I know that this spiritual tradition has answers about these laws, and I want to learn about these laws, and I want to learn how to manipulate these laws so that I can enjoy the material world better, then that's a depth that's more than the average person. But it's not the deepest level. And if I approach this spiritual tradition and inquire into this reality, not to enjoy the things, not to manipulate the laws, but to become free of the imposition of these laws on me. That I see that I go through mental ups and downs, I go through emotional states that are sometimes pleasant and sometimes unpleasant. I see that I'm bound by certain laws like time and death and rebirth. I want to inquire into this reality so that I can escape that and achieve some state beyond that where I'll find peace. That's a deeper level of inquiry into the reality. But according to Vyasadeva, as he reveals in Srimad Bhagavatam, the deepest level is I want to inquire into reality to understand my full potential in love. That I have a potential not just to be free, but I have a potential for the love that is my nature to fully blossom and be expressed. And if that's my motive in inquiring into the reality, then that's the deepest level. So it depends, on one's purpose.
Can you relate that to visiting holy places and whatnot?
Yes, so some people it's common. It's actually very common that people go to the holy place, that they go to the Ganga, they go to the river, and their motive is, I've done sinful things in my life. I have accrued karma, bad karmas. I want to go in the river and pray that my bad karma is washed away into the river. That's the motive of a lot of people when they approach the river. And again, they've caught on to something that other people haven't caught on to. They've understood a little, that faith that they have, that this isn't just ordinary water, but that this is a channel of spiritual power and grace that is descended through the planetary systems. Their faith in that has them situated on a deeper level than most people. But again, if their motive is this, and so therefore what I want from this channel of spiritual energy is to become freed from the reactions of the bad things that I've done, then they haven't understood its value very deeply. And other people approach that river for moksha. They want to become free of the laws of this universe, the sufferings of this universe, and find peace. And some people go into that river begging that they also want the past conditioning or past karma to be washed away. But their motive is not just so that I can enjoy this world more, or I can be free from the sufferings of this world. But their motive is because in that state, I'll be able to use my body, my words, and my mind as a complete and satisfying offering to God. In that state, I'll be able to offer myself in a way that will please God. All of this conditioning is holding me back from making a full-hearted, pure, satisfying offering to God. Dear Goddess Ganga, please wash away everything in me that prevents me from being able to act with full love, offer myself fully with love. Then that's so again, people are approaching the holy places with different motives. People are approaching the temple, the deity in the temple with different motives. People are approaching the holy person with different motives. Sometimes people would approach Srila Prabhupada, and they would say, you know, oh, Swamiji, you know, please give us your blessing. Right? There's one time that it was on a train, and Prabhupada was in a private compartment, and he had a couple disciples of his in there. These disciples are people that were giving their full life just so that they could develop this pure love. That was their high-level motive. And there are like a lot of people trying to get into the car to see. They knew this great saint was on the car. They're trying to get in there. And the disciples are trying to prevent them from getting in there. But at some point, they slid the door in the train door open into his, what do they call it, into his berth. And then there they were, and Prabhupada was right there. And so then they said, what do you want? And they said, we want your blessings. And then he said something that kind of caught them off guard. What kind of blessings do you want? Right? And one of them said, well, my knee hurts. You know? and Prabhupada's disciple was like, oh, you know, you struggled so hard to get the darshan of this great soul, and you're like, you go to a doctor, the doctor can help you with that. You know, this is what you asked for. There's something so much more that you could, you know. So whether it's a holy person or a holy place or a holy act or whatever, we can operate on any of these three levels. But really, our evolution through you see these three levels in all the different spiritual paths. You can see, for instance, in Christianity, right? Whole nother spiritual tradition, but you'll see, like, if you read the Old Testament, a lot of it is about be good, follow the law. You know, here's the 10 Commandments. Moses comes down with these rules. Follow them, and God will bless the community. Don't follow them, and you will have to suffer famine and floods and all these kind of things. It's a lot of that kind of thing, you know, approaching God so that you can have a better circumstance in this world, or so that you don't have a worse circumstance in this world. And nowadays we see that in even cruder expressions of it. Like in the United States, you have a lot of like these mega churches with like a whole stadium, you know, 50,000 people in the stadium or 20,000 people in the stadium or something like that. And there's like a preacher, and the preacher's in a very expensive suit with a very expensive watch, and they're saying, I become prosperous, I become a millionaire because I believe in Jesus, and Jesus wants you to be a millionaire too. They call this the prosperity gospel, right? All you have to do is, you know, give your money to this, you know, to this church, and you will also be like I am. So that's a cruder expression of I'm approaching God to get the things of this world. But then there's a whole tradition in Christianity. Like, have you heard of the Desert Fathers? Desert Fathers are like, it's practically like straight up Jnana Yoga. They define God by what God's not. He's not this. It's exactly that. You know, they God can't be this, God can't be that, God is, you know, and they would separate themselves from society, go off into the desert, and just really have this very jnanic contemplation about how their nature's beyond this world. It's straight up Jnana Yoga. And then you also have Bhakti, which is, you know, that you see most of Jesus' teachings were really on the level of bhakti. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's bhakti. Or you got so many St. Francis and all these different things. That's how they approach. So you see it in Christianity, you see it in Judaism, you see it in Islam, you even see it in Buddhism. At least you see it manifest in a certain way. You see it all over. So it's and in this faith, it's very clearly laid out in great detail what these three stages are, from karma to jnana to bhakti. Approaching God for the things of this world, approaching God for escape from this world, or approaching God out of love. It's meant to evolve in that direction. And they say even the cosmology, right? There's Devidam, the material realm, which is the realm of karma. There's the Brahmajyoti, which is the realm of jnana. And then there's the Vaikuntha, which is the realm of love, like that of bhakti. And then you can also see that same progression played on the history of spirituality as it unfolds in India, from the Vedic, from the Vedic culture, of the Vedic era, where it was all about ritual, to the Jnanic area, Buddhism and Shankar's, influence, and then eventually the Bhakti influence. And even that influence kind of gets churned deeper and deeper into like Krishna Bhakti and Braja Bhakti, So that's the progression, whether it's in the cosmology, whether it's in the history, whether it's in all the different spiritual traditions. It's also there in the evolution of the individual, that we can also progress from approaching God with worries of salvation, will I be saved, to wanting to be free, to ultimately just approaching out of love. That it's a natural progression. And love is always the full expression, the full evolution. Okay. Yes.
So even accepting the Bhakti tradition, what is the significance of Lord Chaitanya's speaking of Acintya Bheda Abheda as far as going deeper in that? In some what we might call Bhakti traditions, I'm this body and I have a soul kind of thing, and it seems like self-realization is a key there that has to unlock something. Does that make any sense?
Well, and I want to make sure we can keep the group with us here, because some of these, he's asking about Sri Caitanya, who in our Bhakti lineage is recognized as, you could say, an avatar of Krishna. And he's teaching about this very deep, refined type of bhakti, which you can call Braja Bhakti, or this intimate love, not the reverential. There's a whole era of the reverential love that was especially, if you go back 1,000 years, 800 years, Ramanuja, Madhva, they were teaching you approach God with reverence. A beautiful tradition. But then about 500 years ago, you get several lineages in Vrindavan that are teaching about there's something still more. If you take that churned essence that you have of loving God with reverence and you churn it still more, you get to this intimate love and if you want to know what that looks like, you read the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapters in Vrindavan. See this kind of love. And in the 15th century, this plays out. Like it's there with Sri Caitanya, it's there with Vallabhacharya, it's there with Swami Haridas, it's there with Hidhari Vanks. All of them in all these different lineages, they're all realizing it at the same time. We can churn this still deeper and find some deeper essence. And some of those lineages are like real Brijbasi, they're like Vrindavan centered. And they don't engage with Vedanta very much. They kind of they compose these beautiful songs of devotion, and their followers sing those songs and try to understand it. But Sri Caitanya was amongst the four. He was the only one with like this determination that I need to share this kind of love with the whole world, regardless of people's yogic qualification for it. So that's like a really that's like a game changer. That like is a really different thing. I want the whole world to understand this very confidential love, even though they're not great yogis. And the way that he does that is he engages with Vedanta. And he goes back to the Upanishads and he takes out this mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And rather than saying, I'm going to compose some songs of love, sing my songs, he says, chant this mantra, this Vedic mantra. And he recognized that in this Vedic mantra, everything's inside it. Yeah, Radha and Krishna and their love is inside. You know, Hare Krishna. It's it's lacking nothing. It's complete. That you can just chant this Vedic mantra. But he also teaches. He engages. The way that I understand it, and honestly, this is something that I want to research more, and I want to clarify my understanding on more. But the way that I understand is because he was concerned that the whole world get this, he approached it through Vedanta, which is like this incredibly respected, durable, historic kind of understanding. And he shaved his head and became a sannyasi so that he can speak to the Vedantins. And he gave his refined version of the ontology of the self by giving this Bheda Abheda. There's some other lineages that were Bheda Abheda too, like Nimbarka, I believe, is Bheda Abheda, that we are both one with and different from God. But he gave it his particular spin on it and empowered the Goswamis to take it deeper. So it is something that I do actually want to research and understand more. What's the significance of his approaching of spreading it through, deeply engaging through Vedanta in order to spread Bhakti? It's an interesting idea. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Can you speak on the Acintya part?
How is, this is something I need to research new, but I can say at least this. So this philosophy is called Acintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. There are some philosophies that say that we are God, essentially. That when we wake up from the illusion, we realize that my identity as being anything but Brahman is an illusion. And then I realize I am that Brahman and there's nothing but that Brahman. So it's, you are God, essentially. You are, let's just say it that way. You are the supreme. Huh? Nirguna, yeah. And then come other philosophies that say, no. You are always an individual. God is always an individual. You have an eternal relationship with each other as separate individuals, called Dvaita. First one's, and then there are nuances on that. And so this is a nuance on that. It's saying that one, the analogy that's always given is the sun and the rays of the sun. Are the rays of the sun or not? Right? So they are and they're not. Right? If I say, open up the curtains and let the sun into the room, what are you letting in? You're letting in the rays of the sun. But we all understand it to be the sun because it has the qualities of the sun. But it's actually something that emanated from the sun. So it is the sun, but it's different. It's dependent on the sun. The existence of the rays of the sun are dependent on the sun. The existence of the sun is not dependent on the rays. So there's an ontological difference between the two. And so this is Acintya Bheda Abheda, that we are, or let's say this is Bheda Abheda. This is, right, that we are one with God in the sense that we are the energy of God. We have the same qualities of God. Like the sun has heat and light, and the rays have heat and light. God is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. We are also eternal, full of knowledge and bliss because we are made of His. We are a ray of His energy. So that's Bheda Abheda as we present it. The Acintya part, at least part of the Acintya part, is that you will never understand this through your inference. The only way that you understand this is through testimony. It's just like this is an example I use sometimes. Let's say you have an oil painting. you could use your perception to determine a lot about that painting. You could determine what kind of pigments. Let's say you could experiment with it, like a scientist, and you had a laboratory. What kind of pigments? What were the pigments made out of? Were they made out of some kind of natural, maybe fruits or something like that, or some kind of elements from the earth, minerals from the earth? You could determine that maybe in your laboratory. So that's direct perception. And you might even be able to infer a lot about it. Like, oh, these kind of things were used by people in this part of Europe in a certain time. So I can infer that this painting is from a certain era, but you don't know who painted it. That's beyond your direct perception. That's beyond your inference. The only way that you can know is if someone that really knows tells you. If there's somebody that knows, and they know for real, and they tell you the truth, then you can understand who painted it. But without that, it's beyond your direct perception. It's even beyond your inference. So in that sense, it's Acintya. It's inconceivable. It's beyond the power of your inference to determine.
Could it be said that the Acintya part is you can conceptually think of Bheda Bheda, but the Acintya part is the relationship has to be invited from the other side. That recognition has to be given. Is that?
In other words, there's an element of grace that you can't demand it to happen. Honestly, that's something I would want to research before commenting on. Like really go into how do our great teachers explain this Acintya, and if that's part of it. It could be, but it's something I'm not so well researched in. Thank you. We have a bit more time, and new people here. New questions, perhaps. How are you all doing out there? Everybody feeling good? We're looking for a question, and Om Jai has one.
Hello, brother. So I've got a question on some of the technique that I believe Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning. From what I remember, I'm sure you'll know it better than me, and maybe even share it in Sanskrit also. But he says something about, I believe, circular breathing, following the in-breath to the out-breath in a circular way. Maybe you could comment a little bit about that. And also, he talks about placing the attention at the tip of the nose, right? And I was meditating the other day, and I was contemplating if he means the tip of the nose as we understand it, or the third eye. This here. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for clarifying.
So these things are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, but what we should keep in mind is that they're just very briefly mentioned. The Bhagavad Gita is going to go into a lot of detail about another type of yoga. Like, in other words, there's essentially a chapter, not even a whole chapter. There's a series of verses in the 6th chapter that describe Aṣṭāṅga Yoga. And there it's mentioned to stare at the tip of the nose. But the Bhagavad Gita is not a manual on Aṣṭāṅga Yoga. So it's not going to go into very much detail. Aṣṭāṅga Yoga is being spoken about in a particular context in the Bhagavad Gita. It was Arjuna's stereotypical idea of what yoga must be. And what Krishna is saying is it's a valid path of yoga. But it was never his intention to instruct Arjuna to practice that path of yoga. So he gives enough detail that Arjuna realizes, I can't do this. So rather than Arjuna saying, do you mean this tip or this tip? And then Krishna answering that, and then going into more detail about breathing patterns. There's other texts that go into that kind of thing. But the Bhagavad Gita was never meant to be that text. What happens is that Arjuna hears the description that essentially, in order to pull this off, in order to achieve this state of samadhi, the state of trance, you need to see pebbles and gold as the same. You need to be able to see friends and enemies as the same. You need to go off into seclusion. You need to create the right sitting place. You need to sit there with a back straight, staring at the tip of your nose. And wherever your mind wanders, you have to keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back. And just based on your own determination, you need to enter into a state of trance where you achieve an incredible state of bliss. Bobby, where you achieve an incredible state of inner bliss where nothing can shake you. And what happens is Arjuna hears about this, and rather than saying, okay, I'm ready to go, he's actually becomes distraught and says, I don't think that I can achieve this because the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. Just look at Arjuna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Not only is his mind not controlled, it's raging with panic. He's also got a whole background of powerful enemies that have mistreated him and his family in severe ways, and he's taken vows that he's been absorbed in with deep personal emotion for 13 years. So he said, I don't think I can see friends as enemies and sit alone and control the mind and keep bringing it back. So now what? And Krishna says, it's okay. You don't have to be that kind of yogi. There's other yoga practices. He said with the proper abhyas and vairagya, with the right practice, suitable practice for you and suitable detachment, you can be a yogi. And then he begins to speak about what the Bhagavad Gita really teaches. It validates so many yoga paths. At the end, it says, just leave them all behind and do one thing, right? So at the end of the 6th chapter, Krishna says, I've been sharing this several of the nights you've been here. Yogi nam api sarvesham. Amongst all the varieties of yogis, there's many varieties. They're all real. They're authentic. They're valid. But yogi nam api sarvesham, amongst all the different varieties of yogis, mat gaten antar atmana, one who's abiding in me, deep within themselves, thinking of me inside themselves. Shadavan, with great faith, bhajate yo mam, worshipping me. Same yukta tamo mataha, that person is the most connected to me in yoga. So Bhagavad Gita is not going to go into a lot of detail about the technicalities. There's the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. There's the Gerhanda Samhita. There's different texts that go into, if that's the kind of yoga you want to practice, Bhagavad Gita is going to say it's valid, but actually not recommended. In the end, what he's going to teach Arjuna to do, see me everywhere, right? He said, the one who's always thinking of me within himself. So then the next chapters, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even beyond that, they're really about how to see Krishna in everything. He in the 6th chapter, after he says you reach the state of trance, samadhi, and you feel these things, he doesn't leave it there. He's saying what you're meant to see when you come out of that state of trance is that you see me everywhere. You see everything in me, and you see me in everything. And then he says this beautiful verse, right? For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, to them I am never lost. Right? That's a big thing. In other words, you can achieve a state where you are eternally, steadily in connection to God. Your awareness does not become disconnected. That's massive. But he goes further. He says, to one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, to them I am never lost. And then he says, and they are never lost to me. Now this is a whole different level of information. that here, because if we read the Vedas, there's a lot about upasana. There's a lot about worshiping different gods or goddesses. And through that, the God will give you your desire, right? So we hear that the God, that they're kind of operating within a system of karma, where if you do the ritual the right way and chant the mantra the right way and give the charity in the right way, etc., then they're obliged to provide for you the result of your action. So worship this God, they'll give you that. Worship that God, they'll give you something else. But what Krishna says is very different. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, there's a boon given to them, that I am never lost to them. They'll stay connected with me. Even that's way beyond any material boon. But then he says, and they are never lost to me. This is, you don't hear this talk in the Vedas, that the object of your worship becomes personally moved, emotionally moved, that just the way that you're approaching them with love in your heart for them, they're saying, I have love in my heart for you. This is a whole different thing, right? So that's the end of the 6th chapter. The first 6 chapters of the Gita deal especially with karma yoga, understanding, Arjuna, your path should be engaged in this world. But the next 6 chapters are all about bhakti yoga. Yes, engage in this world, but do it always thinking of me with love in your heart. So the yoga that's taught isn't the staring at the nose yoga. It's the seeing Krishna everywhere. See me in the sun, see me in the moon, see me in the water, right? See me in every opulence that you see in this world. Understand that it's that not only that it's me behind it, but it's just a mere fragment of myself, the Paramatma, right? What does he say? Yang yad vibhuti mat sattvang, Srimat urjatam evava, tang tam eva gavachatvang, mama te jong sasambhavam. Know that every beautiful, glorious, or opulent manifestation in this world springs but from a spark of my splendor. So he's teaching Arjuna that as you go through this world, when you see great things, and the great things are everywhere, don't become distracted by them. They shouldn't direct your awareness away from me. Rather, they should direct your awareness to me, right? So he's giving him this yogic vision of seeing God everywhere and everything. So I was just sharing this example earlier today. But there's let's test everyone's popular musical knowledge. You got strong popular music knowledge? Not so much? Let's see. There's one musician who as a writer, as a performer, and as a producer has sold more records than any other human being in existence. No. Good guess. Not Michael Jackson. Number 2 is Paul McCartney. But number 1, maybe many of you have never even heard of. Anyone know? You know, because we spoke about it today. His name is Nile Rodgers. Have you heard of him before? Just now. Oh, you gave it away. Nile Rodgers, he was in a band called Chic, disco band back in the 70s. And he had big hits. And those hits were also sampled a lot in rap music. So his compositions also spread, wide through by being sampled. But he was also a huge producer. He produced so many Madonna, Queen, or maybe not Queen, but Madonna, David Bowie, so many. It's like a huge list. It's crazy how many records he's been on. And I heard a popular hit that was produced about 10 or 15 years ago. And when I heard it, I said, this sounds familiar. I haven't heard a song like this in a long time. This sounds like one of those disco songs back in the 70s. And then later on I found out he was the one that wrote the song, or at least wrote the riff and produced the song. And my knowledge is relatively paltry, but I could hear that connection. Now, someone that really knows music, when they hear his music, even if it's by another performer, they can hear his influence in the music. You understand? So although they can't see him, maybe they're watching a video of another performer performing this song, but they can hear him in it and feel his influence in it. So when they hear it, they think of him, right? So Krishna is saying, my influence is everywhere. There's nowhere where my influence isn't. When you look at the sun, that's my creative influence manifesting there. It's my mind, it's my heart. It's the creativity of my mind and heart that's the sun. It's the creativity from my mind and my heart that manifests as the water, the river, the mountain, the moon, right? Even if you see someone else powerful in this world, he's saying that's me. If you see a great deva like Indra, that's me, right? If you see a great sage like Brihaspati, that's the power that he has. It's my power working through him. When you see his power, you should be able to say, oh, that's Krishna's power working through him. And so that's the yoga that's a lot of the yoga that Krishna is teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. You look at the 7th chapter, you look at the 10th chapter, there's a lot of that kind of talk going on. Yes? Yes? Okay. Check one. Check. Good. Yes.
Thank you. Can I add to that question then? If I understanding that Krishna is everything and the source of everything, would that be non-duality then? Because would that be would that be non-duality then? Because I've heard that the Bhakti path is a dual path. I'm not sure, but from what I've heard and understood from what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it sounds kind of non-dual if he's the source of everything and everything. What's your thoughts on that? And
we were just talking about this maybe just before you came, or maybe some of the language we were using. We're using this term Bheda Abheda. Did you hear us talking about that? You just came. So Bheda Abheda. Bheda means the same. Abheda means different. So the philosophy that's taught, different philosophers will say different things. But if you look carefully at the Bhagavad Gita, it's telling us we're Bheda Abheda. Krishna will say in the 15th chapter, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That Mamai Vangsa, my eternal parts, separated parts, fragmental parts, you could say. Mamai Vangsa Jiva Loke. The jivas in this world are my fragmental parts. And then he says, this is the way, Sanatana. Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Eternally. So that we eternally we are Krishna's energy, but eternally we are separate. So we're one, and at the same time we're different. And we were using, the example that's commonly given is the sun and the sunlight. Is what we're just talking about. Is the sunlight the sun? Yes or no? Is it? Well, if I say open up the curtains and let the sun in, are you actually letting the sun in? Well, if the sun were in your room, there would be no room left. It's an emanation of the sun. Okay. So if it's an emanation from the sun, is the sun an emanation from the sun ray? No, it's not, right? So therefore we have an ontological difference between the two. One is dependent on the other and not the other way around. The ray of the sun emanates from the sun. The sun doesn't emanate from the ray. So they're different, ontologically different. But at the same time, they're one because they both have the same quality, heat and light, right? So this is the example that's used to explain this Bheda Abheda, that we are the energy of God. What we emanate, this is also Upanishads. Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. That Nityo Nityanam, amongst all the eternal beings, there's one eternal being. Chaitanas Chaitananam, amongst all the conscious beings, there's one conscious being. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. The many are dependent on the one. The many rays of the sun are dependent on the one sun. The many conscious, eternal, fragmental beings are dependent on the one being. That's the root of all existence. What are the qualities of that divine being that everything's dependent on? Sat Chit Ananda. Right? Eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. What are the qualities of all the separated eternal beings that are dependent on that being? The same, Sat Chit Ananda. So we are one with God in quality, but ontologically, we're very small emanations from that. Right? So Krishna says in the so many things are said in Bhagavad Gita, but he'll say in the 4th chapter that when you've understood the truth from a realized person, from a tattva-darshi, from someone who's seen the truth, and you serve them, you open yourself up to them with humility, you place questions before them, and they share the truth with you, what you see when that knowledge is transmitted is you see that he says that can you pull up that verse for me? You got it? 435. Yeah, I want to read it to you because I want to get it right. Thank you. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but a part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. Okay, so there's a oneness, they're part of the Supreme, but there's a difference. One belongs to the other. This is the Bhagavad Gita's philosophy. If you want to teach non-dualism, you'll have an easier time with the Upanishads. Although certainly the debate has historically gone on, and the Bhakti philosophers say that there's dualism within it as well. But if you want to teach non-dualism from the Bhagavad Gita, you have a hard time. The commentaries basically contradict the verses. I'll give you one example. 934. If you take the Bhagavad Gita and you say, what is the essence of it? You could say it's the middle 6 chapters. Sometimes the most precious thing you put in the middle, right? And then where would you find the essence of the Gita? In the middle of the middle. So because there's 18 chapters, the middle of the middle would be right at the cusp between the 9th and 10th chapters, right? That's the middle of the middle. And this text is the last verse in the 9th chapter, so it's right on that line. And then it's essentially repeated again at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, at the end of the 18 chapters, because it's the essence is put in the middle and then repeated at the end. Okay? This is how commentators analyze. You know, even if you analyze a regular book, what is its theme? What is it trying to say? You're going to see it's going to talk about that, and then it's going to repeat it at the end. Right? The most important message you're going to bring back at the end, so your audience understands. So this verse, listen. I'll read you the Sanskrit, and listen to the alliteration, and you may pick up on something. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam eva syasi yuktaivam atmana mat parayana. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam eva syasi yuktaivam. This word mam means me, right? Krishna is going to use the word me 6 times in one verse. Okay? In Sanskrit poetry, repetition is seen more as a flaw than as a ornament. So when something's repeated a lot, there's a purpose behind it. And so this is what this verse says. Krishna opens up the chapter by saying, Arjuna, I'm now going to share with you not just confidential knowledge, but the most confidential knowledge. He's going to say, Arjuna, I'm going to share it with you because you have a quality. You know, there's qualities that one needs to study Vedanta, to practice Vedanta, right? And those are listed: tolerance, austerity, intelligence, a strong drive for liberation, etc. You can go down the list. But to understand this most confidential knowledge, there's a different qualification. Anyone know what that qualification was that he said? He said, you are non-envious. He said, because you have no envy in your heart, you can understand this. Everybody else is reading the same book, but they're not catching on. But because you have no envy in your heart, I'm going to tell you things about myself. Now, if I tell these to everyone, everybody's like, well, why you? Why do you have to be the one that's worshipped? Why do you have to be the one ontologically superior to me? It's kind of like the ray of the sun turning back at the sun and saying, why you? Right? Well, because you're the sun's energy, ontologically, eternally, So at the beginning of this chapter, Krishna says, I'm going to share with you the most confidential knowledge. It's the knowledge of love, that you can love this. There's a being that's behind everything, and you can have an intimate, loving connection with that being. This is the most confidential knowledge. You can understand it, Arjuna, because you have no envy in your heart. When I shared with you, you're not going to get triggered by it. You're going to be open to it. So this is the verse that's the most confidential knowledge. 934. Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva shakti yasi yukta evam atmanam aparayana. Engage your mind in always thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me, being completely absorbed in me. Surely you will come to me. Okay? Everybody got the theme? Right? Dedicate yourself with love fully to me. Now, he used the word me 6 times in that verse. Now, when the Bhakti commentators commentate on this, it's very easy to comment on this verse. Here it is. But when the non-dualists comment on this verse, they say, when he says me, he's not talking about Krishna. They'll say he's talking about the dark unknown within. Right? He's talking about the self, like meditate on yourself. But how could Krishna been any more explicit? You understand? He said it, me. He's really trying to, if you can't accept that verse as it's presented, then there is no way, there is no way that if that's the truth that Krishna could have communicated it, because you're just not willing to accept it. He got like super repetitive. Then he's going to go and repeat this verse again at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita doesn't lend itself very smoothly to non-dualist commentaries. You have to just kind of say what he said right there is he didn't mean it. He meant something else. You'll have a better time with the Upanishads. But even there's going to be some verses that you're going to have a very, very hard time explaining. What's explained, what's ultimately revealed in the Srimad Bhagavatam is that the Supreme, or the absolute truth, or God, manifests in 3 features. As Brahman, as non-personal, non-dual energy, as Paramama, as the intelligence that is localized in the heart of every living being, and then as Bhagavan, as the supreme personal form. And the idea is that a lot of texts, especially in the Upanishads, they're speaking about the non-personal aspect of God. They're giving you information on that, the non-dual aspect of God. They're speaking to that. But then there are other verses that speak beyond that. Right? And so when you get to the Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains everything. And it explains that if you can understand the person from which everything comes, you'll understand the localized form of God, and you'll understand the non-personal energy. You'll understand everything in one. That's why at the end of the 15th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, one who knows me as the Purushottama, as the supreme person, they know everything. He'll never say that if you understand the impersonal Brahman, you know everything. You've understood part of the supreme. But when you've understood the supreme person, everything else is in that. So when you've understood the Purushottama, you've understood everything. And one last thing that we'll end on tonight. And then you serve me with a heart full of love. And then he says, and this is the greatest secret of all of the ancient texts. Bhagavad Gita is real clear. Real clear. All right. It's been a joy spending this time with you, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming, Maharaj. Thank you for spending time with us as well. Every night we do this. Every night we have a wonderful time. Every morning we have asana and meditation classes by Yogi Charu over here. That you cannot find a better teacher for this. I teach more on Bhakti philosophy and Vedanta. And of course the Kirtans and the Prasadam. It just never ends here. It just keeps going. Thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. If you would like to get any recordings of these previous classes or future classes, speak to Gabriele here. And you can always check out the podcast, Wisdom of the Sages, available wherever you find podcasts. Over 1,700 episodes are available. Thank you all so very much. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you. Thank you.